Okay. Thank you, Arthur. Thank you, Mihir, for joining in. Sorry about the delay of, I believe, 7 minutes so far. The other webinar just lasted a bit longer than I actually originally thought it will. So, let's give it just a couple more minutes to see if anyone else will join. Honestly, you have to understand that, two webinars in a row, and whoever attended the previous one will probably not attend this one, but either way, we're going to make it as productive as possible. And if anything, we're going to focus solely on the two of you, uh, yeah, or if anyone else joins for that matter. So yeah, let's talk about lead generation. Let's talk about the cost per lead. Let's talk about the what's happening during the pandemic. Let's talk about buyers, sellers, Google versus Facebook, and stuff like that. And obviously, we're gonna make it proactive. I never really like to, be the only one talking and asking questions. So anyway, I'm just gonna share an informative sheet here, but let's 1 second. Let's open up the chat box as well, so I can actually see it if any of you guys had some questions. But either way, yeah. Let's give it just a couple more minutes, and then we're gonna get it going. Okay. Okay. It might be silly of me to actually just have webinar staying there for a couple of minutes until we actually see if anyone else is going to join. So Arthur and me here, please use the chat box to ask any questions that you may have come to this webinar with. We can basically even answer those before we get going. So please use the chat box if you have any questions in the meantime. Anything pretty much related to, obviously, lead generation online. And in the meantime, let me open up a Zoom, Zmaps. I want to show you guys something else as well. While you type any questions, if you have any, obviously. Okay, awesome. So the biggest, the first thing basically that I want to kind of point out in today's webinar is that our cost per lead map that will be updated quarterly is actually ready to be accessed by our clients. It's ready to be used, where you pretty much get the cost per lead easier than ever. Basically, you can just literally, honestly, you can use the map, zoom in and zoom out, but obviously a lot easier way of getting around is just by typing in the city, for example, and the map will take you there directly, where by clicking on the pin, you're going to be able to see the current cost per lead for that city. Obviously, the same thing applies wherever you are in Canada, in the States. You can literally type in Miami, obviously, if you're located there, and be able to see the cost per lead, all these other areas as well. Back to Mississauga area. So this is something that we wanted to do for a long time and roll it out. Basically, it's now more than ever, people actually have questions on what's happening with the cost per lead. Uh, Basically, especially during the pandemic, and what kind of an impact that is actually having on the cost per lead. So where I want to kind of start with is that we got an official report with official stats for the past couple of months directly by Google, where the inevitable happened when it comes to the searches. You can imagine with that many more potential leads, obviously people staying at home, the search network pretty much exploded. And again, it's an obvious thing where if you know that nobody either is not allowed or nobody wants to get out for the time being. What ended up happening with the searches is that it actually just went up anywhere from 20% to 475% increase in the searches, depending on what we're looking at. Basically, the searches related to virtual real estate, starting from virtual open houses, virtual showings, went up by 200 plus percent. Basically, mortgage rates searches exploded with 475% increase in searches, which tells you one thing. People want information, some out of curiosity, some out of fear. We all know that a lot of people unfortunately had to apply for EI as well. All that had an impact of people searching more and more about the information that can help them answer some questions they have in related to the real estate. What's happening with the price of their home. Some are forced to sell, some are forced to downsize. Basically, people want to purchase as well nowadays because whoever's job this kind of didn't have an impact at, whoever is business as usual, maybe especially in the IT sector, still wants to purchase a home, even if they were planning to. All that had an impact of, for example, as well 17% increase in the searches related to homes for sale. Same thing happened with condos for sale, with townhomes for sale. Uh, Basically with detached and semis and pretty much anything you can imagine related to the searches, connected to real estate exploded. So where I'm going with this, with that actually happening, and with the fact that some people actually had to pause their marketing campaigns, the cost per lead went down. In the last 2 months, we don't have a single record of a cost per lead increasing, not even by 1 cent. Depending from a city to a city, the cost per lead went down from 3 to incredible 22% uh, per each lead that was actually generated. So while it's probably the worst time ever, for meetings, for obviously you can't even meet anyone, for meetings in person, for showings, for tour of the properties and stuff like that, it can be translated to online meetings. Sorry, it can basically be translated to online meetings, and with that in mind, it's the best time ever to actually generate leads and nurture them. Just stay in touch, provide some answers, provide some value to your potential leads, and you're going to be prepared for business in a couple of months when things, start to, come back to normal, when things are a lot more stabilized. With all that in mind, obviously, whoever can afford that. Honestly, whoever can't, the answer is simple. You can't do any advertising, and that's it. But again, that in mind, it really would be beneficial to take advantage of the white space that's out there with so many people actually putting things on hold. But anyway, that just wanted to kind of make that clear when it comes to what's happening with the cost per lead, and with with the two of you attending. Do you have any questions relating, sorry, relating this part before we move on to the second one? Again, feel free to use the chat box and let me know. I'm going to give you, half a minute or a minute before I move on to the next item. Okay, awesome. Arthur, here is good to continue. Let's see if Arthur has any questions. Awesome. Thank you both. Basically, before we move on to the next thing in line, I see Mihaela joined us. So Mihaela, thank you for joining. Thank you for taking the time to attend this. Let's move on to the next thing that I wanted to talk about, and basically that is if you are doing online lead generation, if you're even thinking about it. There's that, I call it, I recently even wrote an article on that topic and we published it on our blog. I wrote a $1 million question: should I do Facebook or Google? Basically, where should I put my money in, like in which of these two networks? I elaborated it there in that article, but I just want to cover it briefly in this webinar as well. So when it comes to Facebook and Google, they are very similar yet very different. Basically, uh, the goal of the of let's say the explanation that I'm going to give isn't really to decide for you. I just want to lay out all facts there. So basically, you can take it with you and decide if you are, again, doing online lead generation, if you are planning to do it irrelevant, if you want to do it in 6 months, if it's somewhere in the back of your head, what you should do. So basically what Facebook and Google have in common. So they have that immense audience. Like they have the incredible reach, the two combined, bigger than anything else in the world. They have an amazing potential to reach anyone, basically for that matter, in the world searching for anything. Like the common thing is the audience. Facebook reported in March 2020, obviously 2 months ago, they reported 2.6 billion active users in the world. And Google reported over 40,000 searches every second. So with that in mind, when it comes to the audience, where you have a bigger reach and the potential, it's completely irrelevant. I've seen many of our clients make a huge and substantial revenue by doing marketing on both, either Facebook, either Google. It's just that you have to get into it with proper expectations, and basically those expectations should be set based on based on quality over quantity. Now, the quality is such a word that as soon as you bring it up, we instantly think of 100% valid leads, qualified, pre-approved, ready to pull the trigger in a week and purchase a home. No, when I say quality, I mean capturing their intention to look for homes. So basically, the main and the key difference is that on Facebook, you can target people by their interest, by the demographics, and obviously playing on the curiosity card, where they didn't open up any kind of a browser and they didn't type in anything specifically, but they were on Facebook, they were active, they were browsing through the news feed, and they saw your sponsored ad that looks great. They are buying or selling a home is actually somewhere in the back of their head, whether it's just, again, curiosity or an actual thought that they have for a couple of years down the road, irrelevant. They're going to click the ad if it looks interesting, and you're going to get that curiosity card, and they're going to submit the information, and you got the lead. And please note that Facebook leads are cheaper than Google because of the fact how those ads are being displayed. Now, on the other hand, you have That's quantity. On the other hand, you have air quotes quality, again, not qualified, but quality leads, in a sense that nobody on Google gets to see your ad unless they actually open up a browser, go to google.com, google.ca, and type in, for example, Mississauga detached homes for sale. So you're not playing on the curiosity card, you're playing on the actual intent. They have an intention of searching for homes. Why? We don't know. When they will purchase, we don't know. Will they provide 100% valid info? We don't know. They're not qualified. We're there to kind of, with our websites in the system, to help that qualifying process. Whoever obviously registers from both of these networks, we're gonna let them register, but we're gonna block them if we mark their phone number as invalid in the CRM system. We're gonna block them from being able to see any other listing except the one that they registered on, unless they verify. We're gonna automatically send them a text message. Hi Arthur, thank you so much for registering my website. I saw you were looking at Mississauga homes between $600,000 and $850,000. I'm going to be sending you that list immediately. 5 minutes after that, an email with listings matching their criteria and what they registered on for the website will go out. So we're going to push that qualifying process as well for you, relevant of which network you use. But when it comes to Facebook versus Google, the way how you display the ads is the big difference. Again, Facebook solely by the display network, by their interest in demographics, but not by actually searching something. While on Google, you actually get to display the ad only after they type in a certain search. It can be very specific as well. So that's the main difference. Again, on Facebook, you can get more leads for less amount of money spent. On Google, you can get slightly less leads for the same amount of money spent, but that whole intention versus just curiosity is one thing that I want to leave with you. So I see John as well just joined us. John, we were covering Facebook versus Google in online marketing. Obviously, being that you registered for the webinar, feel free to if these parts that these 20 minutes that we actually went through, let me know, and obviously we can email our support at AgentLocator.ca. So support at AgentLocator.ca. Whoever would like to get a recorded copy of this webinar, and cover the things that we missed. But for anyone currently attending, please let me know if you have any specific questions. That's correct, Mihir. So Mihir had a question of the leads are being sent in automated listings email, regardless of whether they came from Google or Facebook campaign. That's correct. If you are using our lead generation website and you're irrelevant, if you're targeting people on Google or on Facebook, when they register, they're going to get an automated email with listings. So anyone else, any questions, even for Mihail and John that joined later on? Do you have, did you come to this webinar with any kind of a specific question that maybe we can help with before we move on to the next topic? No, here had a question of, can the lead change the criteria of the search themselves? No, you have to change it, obviously, based on their feedback, whether you're gonna, get it, on a phone call, by a text message, by an email back. But every time when they want to adjust something, they have to reach out to you. Thank you for the question. Anyone else? I'm going to give you a few moments to see if we have any questions before we move on to the next topic I had in mind. Okay, moving on to the next topic I had in mind. Basically, again, if you have any questions, feel free to cut me, and we'll focus on the questions first, because again, the goal is to get to make it more proactive and actually help you guys with answering questions versus me just chatting around. But I do always tend to cover interesting topics. So basically, the next one that I wanted to talk about is buyers, sellers, leases. What to target, what to go for, what's the difference. Now, obviously, this question can be easily answered by you as the agent. Uh, Obviously, we constantly have specific requests. We get people that are solely condo experts. We get people that never, stepped a foot into a condo, that were only selling homes, whether they're detached or semis, irrelevant, single family homes. We have people that never did a buyer deal in their life. They're only, they're specifically a listing agent. And then again, we have people that solely focus on the leases. So, to answer the question, what should I do, buyers, sellers, or leases? This question only makes sense if you are not already determined by, I'm that kind of an agent and I'm only going to do buyers, for example, or only going to do sellers. So, but if you're not, if you like to explore everything and every possibility, then we're going to explain it. So in that pyramid of leads and, the cost per lead, the most or the cheapest ones are obviously leases and people looking to rent a home. Why? The logic there is based on the demand on Google. So we know 100% that there are always going to be more people looking to rent than to purchase or sell, because obviously we all know what's involved into a process of purchasing a home, and we know that a lot more people can afford to rent versus actually purchase. So we're gonna have X amount of more searches every day, every week, every month for leases, and by that actually happening, the cost per each click will be something really, really minimal, like 10 or even 10 or even less cents per each click. And by spending the same amount of money on a cheaper cost per click, what's going to happen is you're going to get more clicks and eventually more leads. And obviously now talking about leases, I'm well aware of what's involved, how much sometimes of a hassle it can be, for not a lot of money to be made, but still approach it this way, that sometimes that $2 lead, or a rental lead, in a bigger picture can make you $50,000 in the span of 5 to 6 years. And that's actually mindset of some of our clients, because they did get that lead for $2. They helped them rent something for $2,500. They ended up making 1,000 or slightly less or slightly above. And it's just some walking around money. It's actually nothing to, to go for. But that same lead, if treated properly, when they're ready to actually make a purchase in a couple of years, you're going to be the one they're going to contact. And at that time, that actually that $1,000 check becomes like 10,000, 15,000. You never know, depending obviously on the price of the property. And let's assume, which honestly we all know that happens in 80% of the times, that that same person you helped with the buyer deal will eventually actually lead to a seller deal or a listing. And in a bigger picture, from a span of 0 to 6 years, that rental deal, that rental lead can actually make a lot of money. I mean, let's face it, we all want more sooner, and we all want everything to be a lot faster. But in a bigger picture, I do understand why some people go for rentals and leases. Now, the second one in that pyramid are the buyers. Buyer are more expensive than leases, but less expensive than sellers. So why is that? Again, it's strictly dependent on the number of the searches and on the cost per click. The cost per click is more expensive on buyers than it actually is on leases, but it's not really as expensive as on the selling searches, seller searches. So that being said, the cost per click on a buyer keyword can vary from 30 to 75 cents. And that being said, we no longer have a $2 cost per lead, but anywhere from $7 to $10, depending on the city. However, we all know that, again, a check on a buyer deal and a check on a lease lead is not even in the same league. And one of the reasons, obviously, why people go rather for buyers rather than leases. However, please keep in mind that buyers are oftentimes sellers. There was a stat that we officially had that 52% of all the buyers had actually a home to sell first, meaning that 52% or 5 out of 10 buyer deals that clients actually closed, it was a seller before it was even a buyer. And I would say that not necessarily nowadays it has to be that high, but I would still say that it's very much around 40%. If not 50, it's still definitely around 40%. So that pretty much answers the question why some people are not really into doing sellers in general and targeting them directly because of that expensiveness per lead. So we're coming to that top of the pyramid where sellers are the most expensive leads to generate. Again, solely based on the cost per click, where the cost per click on sellers is not even 75 cents at worst case scenario, like for buyers, but it's actually anywhere from $1.20 to $2 for each click. And you end up spending same amount of money for less leads. And still the conversion rate isn't greater. There's often that myth that if you're getting sellers, they're likely to convert, and the buyers, no. Irrelevant of the lead type, they're still an online lead. They're, it's nothing like a referral lead. They're just someone who actually went to Google and typed in something, like what's my home worth in Mississauga, and basically looking for an CMA, looking for online home values, online home worth calculator, and stuff like that. So I hope this kind of makes sense. However, again, we do understand that a lot of our clients don't really want to do buyer deals. They're simply, it's not their forte. So obviously, they go for sellers that can be anywhere from $13 per lead up to even $20 per lead, depending on what's the area and what's the city. So I'm just going to stop there for a second. Based on this, please do use the chat box and let me know if you have any specific questions related to this, or for that matter, anything else. This, yes, yes, Mihir had a good question of basically what the cost on the map that I'm displaying here that is going to be accessible to our clients. What is the cost per lead per city that we display here? This is solely cost per buyer lead. Mihir, I'm truly sorry. This is one of those features that we rolled out a few days ago. And on the go, we're going to populate it with the leases and with the seller cost per lead. Thank you so much for the question. Okay, while I leave you guys to the chat box and to see if you have any further questions, I'm just going to touch base on the last thing that I wanted to cover for today. Obviously, we're only 35 minutes into the webinar that was supposed to last an hour, but anyway, we book an hour solely thinking that, if we have 20, 30 people attending with more questions, it's going to take us more time to answer. But the last thing that I want to kind of cover today, sorry, not actually the last, but there's going to be one more thing that I want to show you, and maybe you already know, but just in case. Basically, oftentimes people come with questions that are somewhat, what should I target? And by what should I target, it's mainly where should I target? Like, is it a city level or is it a community level? Now, this is, again, the quality over quantity and the cost going up or down, but I'm going to explain it on an example of City of Toronto, let's say. We have City of Toronto as, obviously being somewhere around, stopping at Etobicoke, stopping at the north border of North York, and to Durham region, basically covering Scarborough. So oftentimes people refer to Toronto as a set of Etobicoke, downtown area, North York, Scarborough, and that's obviously correct. When it comes to what you should target, it's gonna come down to you again knowing all the facts and deciding on what you're going to cover. So the cost per a city level, the cost per a lead, that simply typing in Toronto homes for sale is the cheapest one. And there you can get away with, well, anywhere from 7 to 750 per lead. If you are going on the buying side of it, obviously, if you're going for the whole city of Toronto, after that, you can go down to specific and say, I only want leads in North York, where your cost per lead will be $9.98 on average. Same goes for Scarborough and Etobicoke. They're slightly more expensive than going after the whole city. Again, solely based on the fact that there are many more searches and many more people relocating even to Toronto. They know of Toronto. They don't know maybe specifically for North York. They don't know specifically for Etobicoke. That being said, you're coming to the third part, or the third method that you can cover and target. Basically, you can be community specific. So if Toronto is too broad and you don't really care about the cost per lead, if North York is again too specific, or if you have a niche in a certain neighborhood, a local expert, if you want to take that advantage, then obviously we're going to have clients looking to target specific neighborhoods. And let's focus, for example, on let's say Bayview Village. Cost and how you can easily do the math is that it's not a written rule, but actually something that we've seen solely from the stats that we have on Google for the past 6 years, is that the cost on a community level is around 30% more expensive than the city level. So if you have North York as that second in line of $10, close to $10 per lead, it's safe to say that your community level, for example, Bayview Village, will be $13 on average per lead. Now we have clients who are all about the quantity. They just want more leads so they can actually extract more of the ones they can close and keep the cost per lead down and the ROI greater. And then we have clients who are willing to sacrifice the numbers, sacrifice the quantity, and sacrifice the cost per lead for slightly better leads. Let's face it, someone who types in Toronto homes for sale will be the classic online lead. Someone typing in North York will be slightly better lead. But someone typing in specifically Bayview Village homes for sale, that lead is already something, because not only that they know the city or the sub-district, they actually know the community where they want to look for a home. So they are slightly better leads to work with. And that's the logic that I want you guys to take from this webinar. Needless to say that there are many other ways of targeting, but it's going to come down to a city or a district or a community. There are going to be some, but not a lot of searches related to postal codes, to maybe specific building, specific intersection. Those are through the roof. Like the cost on a specific building name is not even worth actually generating leads online. That probably would be a better option to maybe go through Facebook and target people living only in that building. So that being said, do you guys have any questions related to this part? Okay. And the last thing in that case that I want to show to you guys is, or again, if some of you guys already know this, I'm just going to pick a random website. It's completely irrelevant. We developed 2 landing pages that you guys can use for the time being until the epidemic is gone. And obviously, you can use the other one after that. So I'm going to say COVID-19 prices. And we developed this landing page basically as something you can use within your website already. It doesn't cost anything extra to set it up. It doesn't cost anything else on a monthly basis. You can simply ask support at support@agentlocator.ca. I sent it there to the chat box. You can request this landing page to be added to your website free of any cost, free of any charges that you can utilize. And for the time being, obviously, you can use, might as well just share it across your social media on Facebook and have people submit the information here, where the goal is to basically, after someone registers on this website, let's say it's 5800 here in Terry Street, that's our office address. If someone goes to this website, sorry, they're going to have the ability to select the radius, what's the type of their home, and basically provide information, where the goal is to send them an alert on a daily basis as soon as the property is out in this area, to see what it actually ended up being listed for, which will answer the question, what's happening with the price of homes during the pandemic. So you can ask support to add this one. And then the one that I might as well, you can keep using this one even after the COVID-19 pandemic is gone, called Let's Have a Digital Coffee and Talk Real Estate, where the goal is to basically have people submit, mention when is the best time to call, whether they're just buying or selling or both, and are they a first time home buyer, and book a digital coffee, where you will get a lead in the CRM system with all this information to book a quick digital coffee with them. So I really hope that if you heard about these already, then honestly, we're the part of the webinar where I'm talking about it. But jokes aside, if you didn't, you can definitely ask support to add them in for you. And it's just like I said, even if it's nothing paid, you can just share them across your Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, and have people, reach out to you through these landing pages. So, okay, that's literally everything I wanted to talk about today. And I'm obviously just going to leave a minute or two for you guys to see if you have any specific questions. And if not, we're going to wrap it up, and, we'll go from there. Mihir had a question of what are we seeing as conversion rates for active users of AgentLocator. The lowest one, Mihir, that we got reported was 1%. So 1 out of 100 leads that our clients generated. The average one is around 2.5. And obviously, to be honest with you, we have people closing more, but talking about higher conversion rates is like mystical, and it's almost like talking about unicorns. So I really don't want to put benchmarks up high, but I would say that the average is definitely a solid 2% of all the leads. And the math there, again, is really easy. We're talking of 2 commission checks based on about 1,000, well, slightly sometimes even less, up to 1,300 investment for 100 leads. So that should be the math, and some like a beacon, like a guidance of where the benchmark should be for closing online leads. Did pandemic significantly affected conversion rates? No. From what I see, basically in the end, we're talking only 60 days here. Honestly, it's only 2 months that since all this started, and at the very beginning, it didn't even impact it at all. But I would say, based on the 1.5 months of feedbacks from our clients, deals are still very much going through. From the ones that actually have to, that for example, that offer got accepted, now they have to sell their home, or for people that unfortunately lost the jobs and got applied to EI, they had to downsize. And so far, we didn't have a client report the conversion rate. Actually, we got a feedback that more and more people are picking up the phone calls from our clients, and some of them were actually making jokes that people are bored to that extent at home that they're going to talk to anyone. And but everything else aside, I think that it's safe to say that people are picking up phones nowadays more than ever because of fear and curiosity. They want to know what's happening with real estate, with their home in specific, and obviously even with the neighborhood. So no, it's safe to say that we didn't so far get any kind of feedback that was negative, in the sense that they're not closing deals. Absolutely. Mihir asked the question: is there a general training for using the new Agent Locator CRM? That same email, support@agentlocator.ca. Feel free to shoot an email there and basically just ask for a training session on how to use the new CRM system, and they're going to pass you to the training department that will book a one-on-one session with you and help you, get comfortable with it. Okay. It seems like we don't have any new questions. So again, thank you so much for taking the time and joining the webinar. And I wish you all an amazing rest of the day. I truly wish you're staying safe and healthy. And obviously, anything that comes up, feel free to let us know, and we will be there as usual. Thank you so much, and you all take care.